So I thought I'd talk a little bit about apples and oranges. And the reason I want to talk about this is because there's been quite a lot of comments recently about how you're comparing apples and oranges. Now, there's a little bit of confusion going on there. I'm not suggesting it's deliberate, but it is certainly confusing. Because unless you define what you mean, then actually the statement can be meaningless. And now this is a fairly common thing in our everyday speech. We don't really think about it, we just use these words and we think they have meaning, and they may well have meaning to us, but it maybe is not the same as the meaning that the other person holds in their head. For instance, words like happiness. What does that happiness actually mean? We all think we know what it means, and we all have an idea for ourselves what happiness is, but happiness can mean something very different to very many people. So in real terms, when you talk about everybody should be happy, that's something that everybody can agree with, really, but it doesn't actually mean that much because happiness is undefined. We don't know what happiness means to all of the people that there are around, and happiness means different things to different people. So when we talk about, hey, you're comparing apples to oranges, as if this is a bad thing. And it may be a bad thing depending on what you mean by that. So let's take a metric, like weight, for instance. And we take a kilo of apples and a kilo of oranges. They weigh the same. So that's a meaningful metric in which to weigh them because we've defined the terms about what we're talking about. So if we want to compare things in terms of weight, it's easy to compare apples and oranges. Just weigh them. Do they both weigh a kilo? Yeah, they're the same weight. So when you're talking about these things, defining what you actually mean is really, really important. If you want to look at the flavour of apples and oranges, then of course you're comparing two different things because they taste very, very differently. And you would use them in different ways based on their flavour. But you wouldn't use them in different ways based on their weight. If you're comparing them in terms of weight, you would deal with them identically. This is relevant, really, because you have to think about what it is that we're comparing when we compare something. Are we comparing the flavour of two things? Because we take our device and we compare it to a battery or we compare it to a supercapacitor. Are we comparing the flavour of those devices? Well, the simple answer is no, we're not. We're comparing them in terms of the energy and the power that they have. Because, after all, what do you want an energy storage device for? The primary reason for having an energy storage device is because it stores energy. So, of course, that is going to be our primary metric. That's what we're really interested in, and that's what the comparison is based on. It's based on the amount of energy, usable energy, that can be stored on that device. Now, it's very true that those devices have different flavours. That is, a supercapacitor will discharge with a high power and a battery won't. And you would have to put them in different applications that are suitable to the flavour of the device. Just like if you were cooking with apples and oranges, you wouldn't use oranges with pork. You just wouldn't do it because it would taste horrible. You'd use apples. Same thing. If we're looking at the flavour of it, then we'd look at the application of it, and that's fair enough. But if we're looking at the weight of it, or in our terms, energy and power, then it's a very valid comparison to make, to my mind, because we're using a metric that defines the comparison that we're making. So when people say something that apparently has meaning, unless that meaning is qualified, it doesn't actually have any meaning. And a great deal of confusion can arise because the one set of people mean one thing, another set of people means something else, and you get these endless arguments until you realise you're talking about two completely different things. So let's say that when we're comparing apples and oranges, it's a perfectly valid comparison, depending on the metric that we use to compare them. Anyway, I thought I'd make this quick video because I seem to have been answering that question quite a lot, and I thought it would be of interest, and thank you very much for watching.